This episode features Briavel Holcomb, a professor within the Bloustein School of Planning and Public Policy at Rutgers University. She teaches a variety of courses for undergraduate students, such as the Byrne seminar, Are You Happy?, the online course Cyber Cities, as well as the course Tourism, which is open to both grads and undergrads. We discussed her use of technology inside and outside of the classroom, the various methods she uses to promote student engagement, and what influenced her to pursue a major in geography. What inspired you to start teaching?
Well, I suppose it was a strong parental influence. I have to say my mother was a teacher, my father was a professor, my elder sister was a teacher, my great-aunt was a teacher, so that's part of it.
Oh, I see. Definitely in the
it's
genes.
Sort of in the
well.
genes, yes.
Right. Apart from your own family members, but any other mentors while you were a student?
When I was in high school, the last 2 years of high school, which as you know in England you take A-levels,
Of course,
and I had
yes.
two really good geography teachers. One taught physical geography, the other human geography, and they were so dedicated. They used to go on individual field trips with me, and I love learning in the field, and that's, you know, they were early inspirers. And then when I came to America, I went to the University of Colorado, and my PhD advisor was really good because he encouraged me and he said, "You've got to keep going," and I did keep going.
So how did your interest in geography originate?
The reason why I did geography in university in England at the time was that if you wanted to go and do a science, you had to have mathematics, and if you wanted to do a humanity, you had to have Latin, and I was lousy at both Latin and math, so geography was a good in-between subject.
So does the fact that it's also incredibly interdisciplinary appeal
Oh,
to
that
you
absolutely,
as well?
absolutely,
Yes.
because you can do almost anything and call it geography.
Yes.
And I do.
Exactly, and it certainly does sound like you do, because you have such a rich variety of things that you teach.
The discipline itself, which of course I still very much identify with, has veered as many disciplines have. It went through its quantitative phase, and then it went through its sort of postmodern existential phase.
But it's great in the sense that real life doesn't have disciplinary boundaries around it, right?
Absolutely.
So geography can be pulling in so many different ways and perspectives of understanding that.
Yeah.
So your classes vary from about 30 students to about 70 students.
Yeah,
And
I've taught more and I've taught fewer, but yeah. The two of the classes I took lastly, one was the Byrne seminar, which is limited to 20, so that was easy. The other one is a 70-person class.
What was the Byrne seminar on, in fact?
It was called Are You Happy?
Oh.
And it was on happiness. You know, we did the philosophy of happiness and went back all the way to Aristotle and so forth. Then we talked about positive psychology. In the spring I teach a course on tourism, which is a joint grad-undergrad class, and we spend a week on New Jersey, but we look at environmental impacts of tourism, economic. I look at developing countries particularly, because a lot of, say, Caribbean countries, the Bahamas, where I'm going pretty soon, that 80% of their GDP is tourism related. So we talk about the impact of culture, both positive and negative, how tourist culture trashes real culture, but on the other hand, tourists go and buy really genuinely made articles that people have made. So there's positives and negatives.
What are the classes you're teaching, in fact?
I'm teaching a class called Cyber Cities, which is about the impact of the web on daily life, on society. And it's a class that I sort of developed because I've been so intrigued by the huge changes that have occurred in the last 20 years by having access to the web. And of course you can get access to information about health much more quickly. You can find out what medications somebody's taking, etc., etc. Then we talk about e-education, which of course is very close to my own heart. And two of my classes now are hybrid.
Are they?
So I meet them all in the classroom for one period, and then give them online assignments and things for the other half. And the students love it. I have to say...
How many students are in that class, the hybrids?
Well, actually, two of my classes, a 70-person one and the Cyber Cities, which is 30. Of course, it generates a huge amount of grading.
I bet.
But I have a minion to do it.
Oh, good. That's helpful. So do you do a lot of online discussion then as part of the hybrid?
Not so much. In each of the classes, actually, one of their assignments every week is to post something that's news about whether it's about cities, what's happening in Aleppo at the moment, or if it's about cyber cities, there's always something happening about the web. So every student has to post a current event for the week and then comment on somebody else's current event. So there's a bit of interchange. I use a lot of visual stuff. I'm a very visual learner. So I use a lot of images and then talk about the image or the map or the diagram or the chart or something like that.
Yes.
And then, of course, the other innovation which I love is I used to show movies, but now I used to go to the library and borrow their tape, which it used to be, and stick it in the machine and play it. And it would take 20 or 40 minutes of the class. But now, of course, I can go on YouTube and find a 5-minute, 3-minute clip and play that, and it's we can discuss it immediately. So I think that's a technological change that has really helped.
Do you try even with those larger groups to make it interactive as well?
Yeah, what I'll often do is ask a question and say, talk to your neighbour, get to know about your neighbour, and then I give them 3 or 4 minutes to make a little argument with somebody. Part of the reason for doing that is that they'll get to know somebody else.
That's very nice.
And in the Burns seminar, which I just had, which is all first-year students, I very much wanted them to know each other, so that they would have a friend going forth. And
that's a lovely thing.
And actually, by the end of the class, which it now has ended, it's only 5 weeks, but they all said that they had a friend in the class. I try to use all the latest stuff. I use clickers sometimes, which what they do is allow kids to see each other's opinions without having to raise their hand.
Yes.
So tomorrow I'm going to teach a class on religion in the city. Mosques and churches and synagogues and so forth contribute to urban life, and so we have opinions that they could have that might not think are appropriate to voice. And so if I have clickers, they can make their opinion known, and then we can, if it comes out 50-50 or for whatever it comes out as, they'd be more willing to speak if they know that there's other people in the class that think like them.
Just to keep that degree of anonymity, so as you say, they can really express themselves, and then you can open it up into a discussion about it.
Sure.
So what do you hope that the students now here at Rutgers actually get out of your classes?
I hope they get some pleasure, some understanding of the pleasure of learning, and the fact that nobody knows it all, and that there's ways of learning new stuff all the time. I want them to know that they can learn, and that it's fun doing so.
Yes. Now we begin the Quickfire part of the program, where professors answer a fun questionnaire. Professors respond with the first thing that comes to mind, letting us learn a little more about the person and his or her approach to teaching. So what is your favourite discipline-specific term?
Well, I love maps.
Okay.
Being a geographer, I use them all the time, and they are now so varied in their ability to show different sorts of evidence and data.
So do you have a least favourite discipline-specific term?
Well, my least favourite activity is grading, but I better not talk about that.
What do you find the most exciting about the start of a new semester?
Oh, they're always so young. Every year they get younger. No, I just get older.
What about
the least exciting?
Yeah.
If
you have a least exciting part of the semester?
The anxieties this year about finances are more palpable than they have been in previous years.
What do you love to see in the classroom?
I love to see them smiling. I love it when I make them laugh.
Is there anything you hate to see in a class?
Well, when they go to sleep, which a few times people do.
Is there a favourite excuse you've ever heard from a student?
Oh no, I think I've heard just about everything. And
If you could study any other discipline other than your own, what do you think it might be?
I think if I had the intelligence, I'd do philosophy. My father was a philosopher, but he died when I was 16. I used to ask him, what is philosophy, Daddy? And he'd never give me a satisfactory answer to a 16-year-old. So
you'd like to explore that?
I think when I retire, I might read some more philosophy, but it's, of course, very technical field now.
Is there a discipline you would absolutely never want to study?
The dismal science of economics.
Final question, actually. If you could attend a masterclass taught by anybody, alive or dead, whose class do you think you might want to attend?
Well, I think it would have to be Socrates.
Lovely answer.
Since I think I use his method, I'd like to see it used, and I'd like to see how, but I'd have to learn Latin for that. So,
So thank you so much, Bria. This has
Thank you.
been
Thank you.
absolutely fascinating.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, me too.